She had like a toy torch. And so, oh no, I don't want to do this color anymore.
Man, I'm broke, but it's chill. Man, I'm broke, but to give me a meal. I'm out of pocket like the sucker McFoley. Blessed when I rap, they wanna shout holding. Vele tu baning klale koli.
My name is KehtelhoNgcobo, and today I'm going to take you on a little film journey. I will be talking about the 2019 film directed by Holscher called Keht. I will be doing my makeup as I talk about this, but I won't be really focusing much on makeup. Don't worry, I will try to keep as much eye contact as I can. When the film begins, we see this sickly old man and he's laying on what I presume to be his deathbed. Another man who we will later know as Lazarus, and I'm only telling you now to avoid saying this man, that man, this man, that man. So another man, Lazarus, he enters the room with his bag. He sets his bag down. Then he goes to the bed where this old man is laying. Then he starts to hum. He kind of puts his hands over this white man like he's casting a spell, you know, and his bag in the corner starts to move by itself. And we see like something peeking out of the bag. Next thing, Lazarus is walking off on the field to God knows where, and back in the room that we were in, the white man is dead. We meet a white family of three. It's a man, a woman, and a child. The man is William, the woman is Sarah, and the child is Mary. So Mary, the little girl, she looks out the window and she points out how the mountains that they were passing look kind of weird. They look kind of scary. And William starts to tell her that, you know,
it's believed that the mountains are a back of a snake. It lies sleeping on its stomach. And after the rains, you can see the scales reflecting. And that's how a rainbow's created. And every once in a while, the snake will poke its head out.
So Sarah says to William, please stop scaring the child, you know, with your stories. And Mary says, I'm not scared. And that's when we know that she's gonna be that character. This is her movie. They stop at the side of the road where they put like flowers. You know, if there was like a car accident and then there's like a memorial type situation, like with the cross and stuff. So they put flowers there. Actually, Mary puts flowers there, and I don't know if this is a connection that I made the first time I watched this movie or after I watched it or after seeing the whole thing, but her parents had passed away there. Okay, her parents passed away, so the two adults that she is with, it is her uncle and her uncle's wife. And then they leave. When they leave, we see like a figure at that memorial thing where Mary had just placed the flowers, and it's like standing over the flowers, stroking, like, okay. After what seems to be like forever, the family finally arrives at a house. It's very dark, like there are no lights. So Sarah tells William, who was now planning to go sort out the lighting situation, to be careful. After a little while, Mary and Sarah, they decide to go inside the house to go look for William. And when they enter the house, there's some candles and they lit. Sarah takes the candles, right, to use them to maneuver around the house, possibly to find William. And Mary asks if they can swap like the light apparatus that they had. So she asks Sarah, can we swap? Okay. And Sarah's like, okay, cool, but don't wander off. But we are watching a horror film, and this is a white child, so obviously the child has to wander off. We kind of go back to William for a while, and we see that he is exploring the house. He gets into like a bathroom situation. He turns the tap and he finds that there's no water coming out of the tap. The water not coming out, it's like It's even making weird noises, like the pipes in the ceiling. And when it makes this noise, we see that figure again that we saw when that white man was dying. Sarah and William, they end up finding each other, and that's when the whole bathroom thing happened, like when William was trying to turn the tap on in the bathroom. And when we see that thing we saw at the beginning of the movie, Mary screams.
Mary!
Sarah and William, they rush to find Mary, and the reason why she was screaming was because the candle switched off. Oh, Sarah, again, like, how did she get all the way to the bathroom and not realize that the child is gone? Sarah says her and Mary should go back to waiting in the car for William. He needs to sort out like a room situation where they can just rest for the night, and then when they wake up in the morning, they can sort everything out.
Let's go back to the car and wait there where it's safe.
How did she get there in the first place? Why is she being carried? Why is she being carried? They're able to settle into the house, and while settling into the house, we are introduced to our first outside character.
We walk on.
We just see the family, they're settling in, like a lounge situation, you know, bonding, catching up. We learned that the house that they are currently at was actually owned by William's grandfather, and he tells a story of like how his dad used to wake up in the morning and work and whatnot. William ends up telling a childhood story about a friend of his who was a black child from a nearby village, and his name was Sia. And basically he was raised as Sia because Sia's dad used to work for William's grandfather on the farm that they are currently at. Sia's father was the local witch doctor. These are not my words. Mary goes, "Oh, a sangoma." And Sarah's like, "What do you know about sangomas?" And she's like, "No, you know, we heard about them at school. We talk about them at school." And she goes on a little tangent, Mary, she goes on a little tangent about basically explaining the power of sangomas and how when you please them, it's good, and when you don't, nothing's pleasant.
Okay, enough about ghosts and sangomas before we all get nightmares.
Oh, the family goes to sleep. They then have their first day, like first full day at the farm, and you know, they have to get to it. William still has to kind of figure out how he's going to sort out the lights situation, the running water situation. Mary, though, you know, she's a child, you know, she ain't got that much responsibility except for to like play and stuff. She's outside with like a box, like a musical box, and with another box that has like worms inside. There's like a forest behind the house, and Mary hears some like children's laughs, and so she decides to follow them. She decides to go and follow the children's laugh in the forest. So she runs off into the forest following this noise. Back at the farm, William is, like I said, trying to figure out the light situation. And Sarah, I think she's doing some housework, but that's when she notices, like, in the yard, they have a shed. They have a shed. And she asks William, like, what's that shed for? He doesn't really answer. We don't really know what it's for. At the forest, Mary decided to rest next to a tree, and she's with her worms. She hears, like, humming in the forest, and again, she decides to follow it. Because that's what you do. You always follow random noises. We will never know why Jesus, what his plans are for his people. We officially meet Lazarus. Remember the black man with the bag from the beginning of the movie who was humming the very catchy tune? Yes. Lazarus' arrival startles Mary, and she drops her box of worms, and Lazarus, he picks up the box and gives the worms something, some food, some leaves, and he does this next to a monkey that is dead and decaying.
Is it dead?
Oh, yes, little miss.
Girl, the monkey's dead, yes. So Lazarus says, yeah, the monkey is dead and it's probably been dead a while because there was like worms on it. It was decaying. So there was worms, there was just flies, there was weird stuff on it. But he said, it is dead, but there is still life. Life is death and death is life. Another main character, right? Did they not teach this child about stranger danger? I would have seen Lazarus and ran. I would have not gone into the forest. I would have probably been sitting in my room. These people have been having an exchange, but they finally introduce themselves. Like they state their names to each other. Hi, I'm Lazarus. Hi, I'm Mary. Lazarus asks Mary, why is she in the forest? And that's a good question, Lazarus. And Mary says she was looking for food for her worms. So yeah, she wasn't following the voices. She tells Lazarus that she just moved to a nearby farm. Then asks Lazarus if he can help her get back to the farm as she is a little bit lost. And Lazarus says sure and walks back to the farm. Back at the farm, Sarah's kind of like snooping around the shed. She wants to see through the window if she can see what's happening inside. And she sees Mary arrive with this strange man. Mary introduces Lazarus and Lazarus says, oh, you know, I actually used to work on this farm for your father. Then Lazarus also like says that the reason why he's there is because he was bringing Mary back. She was wandering around the forest and he decided that, you know, I need to bring her back. William scolds Mary and says, you know, bro, I told you to not go there, and she defends that by saying she needed food for her worms. Lazarus then offers to help William and Sarah around the farm. Like if they need any help, he basically offers these services. And Sarah is quick to say nah.
Thank you for bringing Mary back.
Here you go, Lazarus.
Did newspapers not exist at the time? I don't know, because why with the bare hand? Can't you wrap it? Maybe that's just me and it's not the film. Lazarus, he leaves, okay? Because they've now declined his help. William says, you know, I actually could have used his help. And Shem, you know, I kind of get it because his work needs a lot of hands. Later that day, the family is eating. They're having dinner. And all of a sudden, the lights turn on. He decides to go investigate outside and he sees that Lazarus is their hero. And then William says, asks Lazarus, how did he manage to turn the lights on? Because he had been trying. And Lazarus just nonchalantly says, you know, I put more diesel. And William's like, that's too... I tried that and it didn't work, so what now? Just as he's about to leave, William, I think he feels bad for him. And he invites him back to the house. Oh, he doesn't invite him back to the house. He invites him to stay in the shed. So he has to go tell Sarah this, that he allowed Lazarus to stay in the shed. Obviously, Sarah fights. She fights this. And girl, I understand. William fights this and says, you know, he helped us with the light. And like, I think at that time he thought, you know, I don't think he has any place to stay. So, like, he can't just fix a light and then I chase him away. Sarah goes to tuck Mary into bed and she kind of says, you know, Mary, we live in a place where, like, if we needed help, it's far away. We can't get it right now. So don't be bringing strangers to the house. Please. And, you know, they just have a moment and she tucks Mary into bed and night-night. Later that night, we finally meet some new characters. It's some villagers and they're talking about how, well, there's an old man amongst the villagers. He's talking about how there's this entity that is back and it is dangerous And one of the villagers, a young man, he talks about how it's taking the lives of their loved ones, and basically they gotta sort this thing out. This old man who was talking about how it's back, he starts to say, when you're faced with danger, you have to look at it in the eye and master its moves. Danger comes in different forms, different shapes. You master its moves and you learn how to stand up to yourself in case you have to face it again, or at least I think that's what he said. He was also very much against people doing anything about this danger, because one of the young village boys or young men, they spoke about how this could have been sorted out a long time ago, but you don't want me to sort it out in my way, so we in a dog, we're in the gin. During these talks, they kind of go into a flashback where we see Lazarus. So he is the bad entity, or he carries the aura of the bad entity. And his flashback kind of goes like, the old man kind of says he kind of starts to feel sorry for Lazarus, because he says Lazarus is just an old man who loved his daughter and found himself in an unfortunate situation. So the next day, Mary finds that one of her worms had died, and so she wanted to decide, should she throw the worm away or should she bury it? And she decided that she was going to bury it. Well, I think she was kind of asking for advice from Lazarus, and Lazarus said, go ahead and bury you, baby girl. They go to the forest to bury the worm, and Lazarus goes on about the significance of death, and you know, we learned that Mary lost her parents. Oh, well, I kind of put that together in the beginning, but we learned that she actually watched her parents die. And Lazarus also shares about his daughter, who had also passed away, and they kind of bond over the fact that they both need the other part in their life. They go back to the farm and Lazarus gives Mary a jar that has moths inside. Yeah, and he kind of says, it's our little secret, it's like my gift to you. Sarah's outside hanging clothes while this exchange is happening, so Mary approaches the house so she can go hide her worms, and she has to go through Sarah and kind of make up an excuse to not stop. So she says, yeah, I need the toilet, bye. So Mary skips inside the house. While Sarah is carrying on to like hang the clothes, she sees like a villager peeking behind the shed or like in the distance, and she freaks out, and I would freak out too if there's strangers in my yard. And she calls out to William, and when William comes outside, she basically says, oh, my lace is showing. She basically says William has to go to the village and talk to the people there. Just introduce yourself, make yourself feel warm, because child. Lazarus goes with William. They go to the village. When they get to the village, Lazarus stays in the car. William exits the car and approaches like a group of villagers. Some of them we saw the first time we were introduced to this group. They get to the village. William exits the car alone to greet them, and first he kind of approaches and he speaks in Xhosa, or he tries to. One of the old ladies says to William that he's not welcome there and he should just go back. Lazarus then exits the car and he tells William that he needs to go back into the car. When William goes back to the car, he reaches into his cabin hole and he wants to take out a gun. The villagers don't ease up to Lazarus, and one of them even goes as far as calling him itimoni. One of the old men of the villagers tells Lazarus that he needs to take his white man and they need to bounce and get the F out of H. They decide to go back to the house, and William asks like why they act like that, and William's like, nah, they just have, you know, superstitions because they think you want to take their land, what. They were scared, and this is not the truth because they were speaking in Nguni language, so the white man didn't really understand what was going on there. Basically, also William tells Lazarus that can they please not tell Sarah how the interaction went. Later on that day, Sarah goes into Mary's room so that they can just kind of have a bonding session. She's braiding Mary's hair, and she points out to Mary that she realized that her and Lazarus have a very close bond. And Mary says, yeah, that's because he knows a lot about nature, specifically worms and moths. And he told me that when people die, they inhabit the bodies of moths. She says her parents, who passed away, they're both moths. So later on that night, Sarah and William, they're talking about how they haven't been blessed with children of their own. And Sarah's saying she's being very hard on herself, on her inability to bear children. She's saying she's rotten. It was just that was one of the saddest conversations. That was one of the things that really got to me in the movie, actually. It was making me cry also because William doesn't seem to understand. Because he says to Sarah, but we do have a child, which is Mary. And like, I don't really have a doubt that Sarah loves Mary, but like, I also understand the longing to have your own child, and him not understanding that when that is his wife, for me was just, if you don't shut up. Sarah later sees William exit the shed with his bag that he always carries, and he goes into the village and he goes to visit, yeah, that's the word, one of the villagers. It's one of the old ladies, and she's sick. And basically that same process that we saw at the beginning of the movie when Lazarus was with the white man, we see it again. Her spirit, her soul coming out of her body, and then a moth comes out of her mouth, and Lazarus collects it. He puts it in his bag, or he gives it to the thing that always crawls out of his bag, and when it crawls out, you can visibly see that this thing is a creature, but after it consumes that moth, it looks more like a little girl. After collecting that woman's soul, Lazarus goes back to the farm, where now we're going to see him interact with this demon, human, whatever the hell thing that lives in his suitcase bag for the first time. We basically learn how it got there, that Lazarus' daughter had passed away and he wanted his daughter back. So he summoned this thing, not knowing that he's summoning a demon, and it's just been asking for souls and souls and souls and souls, promising to bring the child back, which that's so sad. The demon thing talks about how you know what to do, you know who to get me. If you're trying to get your daughter back, I want me some Mary. Nobody's going to satisfy me in the way that that child is going to satisfy me. Lazarus explains how difficult that's going to be because Sarah is watching Mary like a hawk. Like, she's already suspicious of him, so he can't do anything wrong. Then the demon's like, you don't worry about Sarah, I'm gonna take care of her, you bring me the baby. And that was so fitting because Sarah was in the bath at that moment when the demon pays her a visit. Luckily, William was outside the bathroom door at the moment. He kind of hesitated to enter, but eventually he did, and Sarah didn't die from the demon. Sarah cries out that somebody is trying to kill her, and William's like, that's not true. And I'm like, boy, At this point, William, I actually can't remember if it was at exactly the same time, but he, close to this moment, breaks the news that they're gonna permanently move onto the farm. Like, they're gonna live there permanently. And Sarah's like, there's a lot of things we're gonna do, but that is not one of them. Mary leaves again to go find food for her worms, and William goes to fix another thing that's broken in the house. In the village, they are burying that old lady. Remember Lazarus went to her house, like paid her a visit? Yeah, that lady. She had passed away. So they were now going to bury her. And his son, the one who was explaining to the old man at the beginning, not really at the beginning, but towards the middle of the movie, that had they just taken care of this thing, that was his mom. And now look, the son, obviously he's crying. His mom just passed away. Well, his mom died, and it wasn't of natural causes. So now he wants to avenge her death. He says he has a plan on how to stop Lazarus, and he says that the only way he can do that is if they find a way to separate Lazarus and that bag of his, because that bag seems to be the problem. Mary's sitting in front of a dresser, and she hears the noise, and when she looks in the reflection of the dresser, she sees like a child there. But when she looks back, there's nobody sitting behind her. And then all of a sudden, the entity, it becomes physical. And Mary's first question to the ghost person who just appeared randomly is if she wants to see her worms. Downstairs, Sarah's like taking a little nap, and she can hear that this child, and she's talking to somebody, and we're the only two people in my hearing proximity, so Njaini. We then go back to, the important story of Lazarus. One of the villagers steals his bag, but the demon manages to escape. While trying to lure the demon back into the bag, Lazarus arrives to the rescue, his demon, and there's kind of like a fight to survival, and Lazarus ends up stabbing the young man. And the old man, the one who told this young man not to seek revenge, he stabs Lazarus, but Lazarus doesn't get hurt. He doesn't bleed, he doesn't anything, and he's like, Njaini. And Lazarus shows this man some scars, like, people been trying to kill me, but I'm unstoppable. And this old man is like, bruh, I can give you your life back. Just let me help you. Allow me to help you. Lazarus says, the only way that you can help me is if we burn it all down. He just says we burn it all down. Back at the shed, Sarah's snooping around.
I told you there was something wrong with Lazarus.
He needs to leave, like, immediately. She gives William the shirt. Then William is like, okay, obviously he has to confront Lazarus. He goes to the shed, and Lazarus, like, he figures out who he sees, that Sarah was able to get his shirt, so he hurts himself. So there's an explanation. Instead of it being that he stabbed a guy to death, he just hurt himself. And that's exactly the story that he tells William when he shows up at his door, and tells him, William tells Lazarus that, you know what, bruh, thanks for your help, but like, you have to leave. And Lazarus is like, cool, I get it. Can I just have one more day? William had even offered Lazarus money, like, you can leave, here's some money. And that's just like, I don't want your money, just give me one more day and I'll be gone. And they grant him one more day, which is the biggest mistake that they've ever made. He goes back to report to Sarah what Lazarus said, and she's very adamant and very, like, persistent on him leaving immediately. So William gets tired. He's like, you've been controlling me, you've been telling me to chase this man away, and like, I seem some type of way, so if you really want him gone, you do it. And then he goes away. Sarah takes that. She's like, okay, if you don't want to do this, then I'm gonna go. She goes to the shed. When she gets there, Lazarus is talking to that demon thing. Later, we see Lazarus leave, and it's a bit blurry here in my memory, but he's able to take Mary and they go into the forest. William comes back from getting gasoline. He enters the house and he realizes that, no man, it's very, very quiet in here. Sarah's not here, Mary's not here, like the house is quiet. So when he goes to when he goes out, he sees like from far the villagers are coming to his farm, and like they chanting some songs, they sing some songs. It's us and the villagers. Where is Mary and Sarah? And they say, you know what, Lazarus probably took them. And they offer one of the village boys to William to help him go look for Mary and Lazarus while they try to take care of William's wife, which is Sarah.
I used to sing it for my daughter before she fell asleep.
Where is she now?
She is asleep.
Lazarus lost his daughter and Mary lost her parents. So they kind of fill the gap for each other. Mary says to Lazarus, please promise that you'll never hurt me, you know, you'll always take care of me. And Lazarus like, can't promise exactly that, but you know what, I'm gonna try my best to do what I know what to do. And he gives Mary tea, and Mary drinks it and she passes out. Immediately when Mary passes out, William arrives there, and obviously he's mad. He's explaining to Lazarus, he's screaming at Lazarus, I mean, trying to wake Mary up. He's not able to do so. So you remember how the villagers were at the farm? They were doing some sort of ritual around the shed to burn it. And when they finally lit it, when William was with Mary and Lazarus, and it caught fire, Lazarus also caught fire. Lazarus and Mary, they enter this world of limbo. And Mary is well aware that she was betrayed by Lazarus. Mary is well aware that Lazarus hurt her, even though she had asked him if he could promise not to. I mean, he had said he's not going to make that promise, and he's going to promise what he can. But she's very much hurt about this. Lazarus, you know, gives her an ultimatum. She can either go back to the real world and stay with her uncle and her aunt, or choose to die and be with her parents. And in this limbo, we actually see figures that look like her parents.
I want to show you someone over there.
Mom? Dad? Repeat after me. I promise to never forget you.
That's kind of how we wrap up the story of Mary and Lazarus. Mary disappears from this world of limbo, leaving Lazarus. In the real world, the doctor was attending to Sarah. After the limbo thing, the doctor takes care of her and says that she's pregnant. And if you remember very well, Sarah and William, they have this conversation about how they were not blessed, you know, with their own kids. She can't bear kids of her own. The movie is now closing. Sarah is sitting on a rocking chair outside. She has Mary's musical box, so Mary never came back. She's holding her pregnant belly, and next thing you see,
I am the wanderer, and you are mine. Forever.
that's the end of the movie. This film, I don't know, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, I'm not gonna lie. My only issue was that it's a film based on African culture. I've never seen a positive take when it comes to talking about izangoma. It's always negative. It's always death, witchcraft. If you have a gift, it's mostly meant for good. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning into my video. This was very difficult to record, and I hope it gets better. I hope it gets easier. Next week, I do not know what I am going to be talking about, but I will find something. It's probably also going to be a South African production, like today's one. But yeah, please subscribe. Or if no, you probably would have subscribed if you're here. Otherwise, why are you here? Subscribe, please. Share, comment, like. Tell your neighbors to subscribe to my channel, okay? And I will be seeing you next week. Goodbye.
Struggle to get to my G's. Homies, can you help me? Nah, fuck it. I'm gonna work. Give me a mop in the bucket. Give him my dick and stay sucking.